Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Crofts Cooking with Coles. Today we're going to do a pork belly. So this is always another favorite of the families here. So I'll show you how to, first of all, make a dry rub for the pork belly. And then I'll show you how I'm going to put it in the barbecue. So the goal with pork belly is always to get a nice crispy skin on the top here, nice and crunchy. But also you still want the meat to be nice and tender underneath as well. So it's a bit of a combination way of cooking, and I'll show you how to do that with the pork belly here. So to start with, I'm just going to show you just a very quick rub, which I'll make here, which is basically going to be about a tablespoon of coriander seeds, about a tablespoon of fennel seeds, and about a tablespoon of garlic salt. Just putting it into the pestle and mortar there. A tablespoon of caraway seeds. And about a tablespoon of paprika as well. And then just a little bit more of just regular salt as well. So another tablespoon or so of regular salt. Okay, and then I'm just going to mix that all up in the pestle and mortar, and that's a nice easy dry rub just to put on your meat once your meat's prepped. Now, in terms of prepping your meat, so what we're wanting to do is to do crisscross lines on the pork fat here. So this is the fat side up. So initially, we'll make some cuts using a sharp knife. Now, you can either use a sharp knife, or I might find the serrated blade might work quite well here. But also, a Stanley knife works really well as well. So if you've got a nice clean Stanley knife, you could use that. Or alternatively use a sharp knife or a serrated one. So I'm just going to make nice incision, nice cuts all the way across the pork fat here in nice straight line, going diagonally across the meat. So you're wanting to go down just before the meat is there. We're aiming for about 1 centimeter diagonal cuts here. And then we're just going to cover the meat with the rub now, and make sure you're, again, getting in all those little crevices there so that you're completely covering it. You could put a little bit on the bottom, but I'm just going to mainly cover the top here. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is going to put some onions. So this is going to go on a tray. So we're trying to keep the meat from sticking to the grill. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put some onions down, and that'll lay a bed for the pork to sit on. So what we're going to do in the barbecue is going to heat at a very high temperature to begin with the goal of trying to get that nice crunchy top. And then we're going to lower the temperature down to a more moderate temperature, and then cook it for 3 hours, 3 hours plus at a lower temperature. So we're trying to get the best of both worlds, trying to get the skin nice and crisp, crunchy on the top, but also get the meat nice and tender as well. So now we've got a little bed for the pork. The pork's going to sit on top. The tray is going to go in the barbecue. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the coals again on either side of the barbecue, this time with this in the middle. Okay, so we're going to put some coals on the edge, the two edges of the barbecue. The meat's going to sit in the middle, and we're going to aim for a high temperature to begin with. So anywhere sort of around 250 degrees or thereabouts, as hot as we can get it. We're going to cook the pork for 45 minutes at that high temperature. And then we're going to lower the temperature. So the vents are going to start fully open to begin with. And then after 45 minutes of cooking time, then we're going to lower the temperature by closing the vents on the top and aim to cook around 150 degrees for a further 3 hours there. Okay, so get those coals glowing. Let's get going. Okay, so you'll see that I've got the coals either side of the barbecue. I'm leaving the middle with no coals. The reason being is the pork's going to sit in the middle here on a tray, so there's no point having direct heat underneath it. We're going to try to get a nice hot temperature in there. So let's just pop the grill on. So I'm going to keep the flap side like that so that I can top up the coals as needed. And the pork's going to sit right here in the middle. Just like so. Okay. So yeah, vents fully open. In this case, I might move the vents into the middle like so because we're trying to get as much oxygen in there for both sides. And we'll just keep an eye on that temperature gauge there as well. So it's climbing up nicely. Hopefully we'll get up to 250 or so. Okay, so the pork has been cooking for about an hour now, 45 minutes to an hour. So just have a look on it now. And what we're going to do is probably lower the temperature now. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with that. It's crisping up nicely, the skin. So yeah. So what I'm going to do now is lower the temperature now by shutting the vents half open. And then actually I'm going to transfer the pork now because I want to cook some potatoes with that as well. So yeah, I'm going to do them in the barbecue as well. Okay, so yeah, the pork's been cooking for about an hour now at the high temperature. So what I'm going to do now is take the pork off. I'm going to put some potatoes underneath because I want some roasties with this pork. And then I'm going to let the fat drip down from the pork onto those potatoes just to add a bit of flavor. So I'm going to put the potato underneath in a tray underneath. So if you need to top up your coals at that point, it's probably a good time to do it. So just gonna chuck a couple more in there. As long as they're touching a white coal, they will catch a light. Okay. All right, so that's some potato and sweet potato on there. Then I'm just going to cover that again. Now I'm just going to put the pork over that like so. So that any more fat's just going to drip down onto those potatoes, help add a bit of flavor and crisp them up nicely. And then I'm going to leave that cooking on a lower temperature, cooking for another 2 to 3 hours probably, on a lower temperature, aiming for around 150 degrees Celsius on the lower temperature for 3 hours. Okay, just going to have another look at it and maybe just turn the potatoes. Yep, looking good, nice and crispy. Fat's dripping down nicely onto the potatoes at the bottom there. So I'm just going to give them a turn. Pop the pork back on. Yep. Alright. Okay, just another hour or two and we'll be good. Yep, so just keeping an eye on it. Yep, just might turn the potatoes one last time. The pork is cooking perfectly, and yeah, that looks good. Pretty happy with that. Lovely crispy skin on the top, and should be nice and tender in the meat. Delicious, lovely crunchy skin on the top. The meat should be lovely and tender there. Roast potatoes also in the barbecue. So yeah, enjoy. Delicious.